we have this out here, so I'm going to use it. So I officially would like to start the December meeting of the Franklin Grand Isle Community Partnership. As always, thank you to everyone who's taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. And this month, as always, especially our local legislators that are here and on screen as well. We greatly appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules and as the session approaches. So, this morning was rather interesting with technical difficulties and coffee. Last night somebody said to me, I said, yeah, we're going to make one coffee because for a year that's all we've needed. Well, wouldn't you know it, about 4 minutes to 9 we ran out of the first one. So, of course, we now have another one being completed. So, if you'd like more coffee and cookies, they're there for the taking. So, as we typically do, we're going to go around. Melinda will lead us. And I'd like to have everybody introduce yourself, the organization you're with, and something that you're grateful for. If you go over 40 seconds, people know I'm not brief, so the bell always rings. But if you go over 40 seconds, in a very fun way, we'll ring the bell. And if anyone is a first-time meeting attendee, we will ring the bell to welcome you. So with that, Melinda, you want to
Yes.
begin?
Thank you, Joe. Okay, I'm going to call people as I see them on my screen. The first person I have is Megan.
Muted.
There you go.
Struggling this morning, everybody. I'm so sorry I couldn't be there with you. I have another meeting at 11 that I have to get to. I'm Megan Bridges from United Way, and my role here is Community Impact Manager. I'm just actually writing what I wanted to say, and Joe, don't ring the bell on me, please. Without a doubt, the favorite part of my job that I get to do each year is meet with all 32 organizations that we fund across our 3-county region with the community campaign funds. And that means that the community volunteers who decide how these funds are invested and I get to spend to an hour and a half with each organization annually. And it is an amazing opportunity and experience to learn just what is happening across our 3 counties. But one thing I wanted to mention this morning was that one of our partners said he was concerned in that all we're hearing and all we hear in the news and all we hear locally and all we hear from our friends and family is that we're losing the battle. And he was so concerned in that when we all are feeling that we lose sight of hope and we lose sight of what is working. And I wanted to say that I'm more than halfway through these visits, and there is a lot that is working, and there is a lot of hope from the peer support that is happening for recovery and mental health and housing, the housing retention services. Let's keep people in their homes. Let's not get them to the point of eviction and having to find another home. From mentoring, and youth voice, engaging youth, that is what works. And meeting people where they're at. I mean, every one of these organizations is not only doing the work of their mission, but they're providing wraparound services, resource coordination.
Megan, I'm sorry. I
can't, Joe. Just let me say one more thing.
No, thank you very. No, seriously. I mean, we could chat all day. Seriously, but thank you. Okay.
I'm done. That was it.
Okay.
Thank you, Megan. Erin.
Hi folks, I'm Erin Creeley. I'm the District Director for the St. Albans Office of Local Health. I also live in St. Albans town. I use she, her pronouns. And I am grateful that I was able to take some time yesterday and join a women's leadership circle for conversation and learning in our actually even here in our building in St. Albans. So I was just grateful for some time away from the day-to-day to focus on development. Thanks.
Thank you, Erin. Next person is Stephanie.
Good morning, I'm Stephanie Comstock, and I'm the director of the Spectrum Drop-In Center down on Lake Street. I had to think about that for a second. Today, I am grateful for my staff who are putting in the really hard work to do the work that we do. It's gotten daunting over the last couple of weeks. A lot of youth in crisis and in need, and they are just amazing. And I couldn't be more grateful for my team.
Thank you, Stephanie. Matthew.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Max Lethor. I use he, him pronouns. I live in Auburn, in Grand Isle, and Franklin County. Like I said, what I'm grateful for is, is a community fairness, but I'm also grateful for an opportunity to running for the 2024 governor's election as of next year, because it's been a long time coming in. Getting to see a different perspective view of how government should run for the individuals in the state of Vermont. I'm very, very happy. I have no preference of how many organizations that I have because I wear so many hats across the state of Vermont. And some of it is within our elected official space. So I have literally 15 plus organizations backing me up. So for the state of Vermont. So like I said, I'm glad to be here, but I'm also glad to be doing something that I love very much. And that's to make sure individual access across Vermont is protected and accepted for everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. Michelle?
Hi, good morning, everyone. From the Rockville Counseling and Support Services Parent Child Center. I've been very grateful this week that I somehow managed to snag some canceled appointments at different vets offices for my dog. So, as we know, that's really hard to come by, and they just kind of opened up for us to help us when we needed it.
Thank you. Representative Lisa Hango?
Good morning. Thank you very much, and I'm sorry I can't be there this morning. I'm Representative Lisa Hango. I live in Berkshire, and I represent Franklin 5, which is Richford, Berkshire, Franklin, and Highgate. And I am currently on the Government Operations and Military Affairs Committee, and I also sit on a couple of special caucuses, which are Veterans Affairs and National Guard and the Rural Caucus. So I have some deep interests in our community, and I am really grateful for the fact that people want to work together in Vermont and that it's not as decisive as on the national level. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda?
Hi, I'm Amanda. I'm community health worker at St. Albans Notch. I am grateful for community. I had a patient yesterday that came in and had reported that she posted on her mother's page that she couldn't afford a Christmas tree, and someone had bought it and it was all set for her to just go pick up. So I'm grateful that Franklin County has really helped support each other during such hard times.
Thank you. Kate?
Hi, I'm Kate with Amber Health. I'm Vermont Area Manager. This year I am thankful to be going into the holiday season with happy, healthy families, happy, healthy people that I work with, and just kind of taking that for granted a little bit for the holiday season going into the new year.
Thank you. Brad? Okay, whoop.
Yep, sorry. There, sorry about that. Good morning, everybody. I'm Brad Perlin. I'm in St. Albans Town. He, him pronouns. I'm co-chair with Melinda of the Substance Use Addiction Summit. We will be holding our third one at the Champlain Valley Exposition. We're looking at July 19th. Excited about that, and want to thank the legislators for being here today, and we certainly invite you to attend our summit. It brings in over 80 food holders and state officials and having serious discussions about substance abuse and solutions for it. And I'm grateful to co-chair with Melinda. She's just a rock star, so thanks.
Wow, I didn't even pay him to say that one. Thanks, Brad. Janine.
Hi, I'm Janine. I'm the Development and Communications Director with Vermont Adult Learning, calling in from South Burlington. I'm not a morning person, so my gratitude is very, very zero. I'm very grateful. I have a cup of tea in one hand. I've got P.E.G the cat. The simple things that get me through the morning. And I don't know, on a more sentimental side, I'm very grateful for everything that everyone has shared so far and the great work you're all doing to support members of our community.
Thank you. Representative Josie?
Hi, everybody. Josie Levitt. I represent Grand Isle Chittenden, and I'm also on the board and a volunteer of the Champlain Valley, Champlain Islands Food Shelves. I'm on the Ag Committee in the State House, and honestly, I'm grateful for all of you, for all the work that you do to enrich our community. And thank you enough.
Thank you. Courtney?
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Courtney O'Brien. I am the Quality Improvement Practice Facilitator from St. Albans Health Service Area through the Blueprint for Health, and I'm employed by Northwestern Medical Center. I am also grateful for my team, but in general, to expand that, most of the work I do is working within primary care practices around quality improvement, and I am really grateful for the team of primary care employees that I get to work with day in and day out, and that they have around healthcare. So,
Thank you, Courtney. Jessica?
Hi, I'm Reverend Jessica Moore with First Congregational Church of St. Albans, and initially I was going to say I'm really glad that I'm sick midweek and not on Sunday and not on Christmas Eve yet. But as I was sitting here, I had a little knock on the door, and it was one of my parishioners bringing in some cash for our discretionary fund. So we have money that we use to help people with Christmas gifts or gas cards or food or whatever they need, electricity, wood pellets, you name it. And it all gets funded through a small handful of really generous folks, and I am just honored to be their pastor.
Thank you. Karen? Look, did she disappear? I think she may have disappeared. Okay. I believe, is there anybody that I missed on the screen? I've seen some shuffling, but I think I got everyone. And if so, then we'll start in the room, and I'm going to start to my left with Faith.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Faith Dubois. I'm a community health worker with the Abenaki Nation of Missisquoi. And I am super grateful for passionate people like Megan who remind me why I do the work that I do.
I'm Michelle Bissett. I work at Franklin County Care and Communities and the Abenaki Nation of Missisquoi. And I'm grateful for family, friends, great co-workers, and I'm glad it's Christmas time.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Amy Brewer. I'm the health educator at Northwestern Medical Center. I coordinate the Franklin Grand Isle Tobacco Prevention Coalition, and I also do Safe Routes to School for Local Motion. I'm waiting for comments from the peanut gallery.
One of these days I will challenge you for longest list of jobs.
I could go on. I also, no. I am super grateful to, today's one of my favorite days of the year because it is an opportunity to interact with legislators here locally to talk about what's important to our community and to eat cookies, which we all know I really love cookies. But I think more than that, it's symbolically a moment where we're sharing, we're communicating, we're solving things together. And I think cookies always, for me, represent like just care and love and sweetness and sharing. And so I do really love cookies, but symbolically they're nice as well. So today is my favorite day of the year. I got all dressed up and I'm super excited to be here.
You did get dressed up.
I did. I put a skirt on and everything. I'm very excited. I'm so glad that you recorded that.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Nicole Cunningham, Regional Coordinator of the My Healthy VT programs in Franklin, Grand Isle, and Royal counties. And at the moment, I am most grateful for just being in this room with everyone, and really appreciate the fact that everybody continues to advocate and step up and help our community in the way that they do.
Good morning, Denise Smith. I'm the Director of Population Health at Northwestern Medical Center, and I oversee the Blueprint program as well as this lovely group of ladies to my right and on screen with Courtney O'Brien. And I'm really just grateful for the people I get to work with on a day-to-day basis. They are what keep me going every day. And I'm also really grateful for cookies, and I'm really appreciative of all the representatives, legislators, senators that we have with us today. It's really nice to see you all, and it is an important and meaningful meeting, so thank you for participating.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jess Graff. I'm the Director of Franklin Grand Isle Community Action, which is a program of CVOEO, the Champlain Valley Office of Economic Opportunity. And I am grateful for how many opportunities we have in our community to partner across organizations that really strengthens the system of social services and safety net that we have in our community. And I'm also really grateful for Vermont's small size, although that's sort of a weighted statement, in that it allows us opportunities to have real access and collaboration with our legislators. I was at the state capitol yesterday, and I'm just always shocked that you can just walk in there and just mull around, and you're welcomed, and people greet you, and what just really also appreciate that I was there yesterday on an invitation for sort of an informal meeting with housing advocates and several legislators, and I'm always appreciative of how engaged with the communities and partnering with service providers our legislature is.
Hi, I'm Megan Malva. I work for NCSS, and I'm the program manager of adult outpatient services and the integrated health program. So work closely with Denise and Blueprint and lots of people in this room. And I'm just really grateful for our community and community partners and all the collaboration that happens. And just I would echo the passion part. Like, I feel like we do have a lot of people who are very passionate about improving people's lives. And so really grateful for that.
I'm Crystal Lampman. I'm the Executive Director of Franklin County Caring Communities. And I'm going to echo the community partnerships that we have. For years, Amy and I have taken our show on the road and talked about the things that impact youth use. We had an opportunity to chat with a new store owner in our community. He's the owner of From Scratch, which was formerly the Hometown Beverage, thank you. And we talked about the exterior advertisements on a business and how those can impact youth use. If anyone has a student at BFA and they're in any of the front classrooms, they've often seen the neon signs blazing bright during the day. And if you have a student that walks to school every day from the time they're in kindergarten until the time they graduate from 12th grade, and they see an average of 10 advertisements for alcohol and tobacco products, they see over 45,000 advertisements in their school lifetime. So when we talked to Mike Rooney, who is the owner of From Scratch, he was happy to partner with us, and we are so excited to announce that those exterior advertisements are gonna be removed. And that will be happening on Tuesday at 1:30. Everyone is welcome to stop in and congratulate Mike on this wonderful decision that he's made that helps protect youth in our community.
That's amazing. That's
Mhm.
awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
My name is Stephanie Kasanek. I'm a community peer advocate with Vermont Psychiatric Survivors. I am grateful for three things in particular, specifically this holiday season. My kids, holidays are never really a fun time, but my kids always seem to push me to make it a fun time for them. And their laughter. And my daughter's school for coming through for us when we're going through some hard times, and the passionate people that surround me. So, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Devin Bevins. I'm with Vermont National Guard's Integrated Primary Prevention Workforce. And I'm grateful for the Pomerleau family who generously donated a significant amount of money to fund the military ball, which happened this past weekend. It was the largest ball that we've had in over a decade, with over 1,000 in attendance.
Wow.
Including Senator Leahy and some legislators. It was a great event, and there's not enough opportunities to bring soldiers and airmen together, so I am grateful that it went off without a hitch.
Before or after, are you going?
After.
Okay. Hi everyone, Suzanne Tremblay. I work for Savita Health. We are a medicated assisted treatment facility for specialty practice for opioid and alcohol use disorder. We are located up and down the East Coast, but we have a place here in St. Albans and 9 other locations around the state. My position with the organization is blueprint manager, so I oversee the hub and spoke model throughout the state of Vermont for all of our locations. And I am super grateful to be here today, not only from an organizational standpoint and from Savita Health, but as a resident of St. Albans.
And this is Suzanne's first meeting.
I am so excited to be here, so thank you.
All the meetings have cookies and legislators.
No. And I'm not over my 40 seconds, right? Maybe I am now. But I am so grateful for the cookies because this morning I woke up and I said, I'm going to make cookies. And it was the most beautiful way to start my day. I've never baked at 6 a.m. in my life, and it was really fabulous. So.
Which ones are yours?
The chocolate chip. They're chocolate chip peanut butter.
Ooh.
Which were made.
Lots of morning love.
Protein. Thanks. My name's Mary Pickner. Welcome, everyone. I am the substance use prevention consultant for the state of Vermont Department of Health Division of Substance Use Programs. Probably have the longest title. And I am so grateful. But besides cookies, good. I'm grateful for all the connections and the support that I have in my family. But and I think that as a person in long-term recovery, like by the grace of the Creator, Christmas Eve I will have 35 years of recovery. I couldn't do that without so many others, and it really is true that without the connections that we have today, it's really hard to carry hope and opportunity for better, just a better way of life. And I'm incredibly grateful. Melinda, you're one of those people. Thanks.
Yeah, why don't we go to the legislators next? Senator Renner and all the way through Representative Clark.
Thank you, Irene Renner, Senator for Chittenden North, which happens to include Fairfax. So it's great to see all of you and be here in person instead of on Zoom. I serve on the Agriculture Committee and on the Institutions Committee. Institutions is the capital budget. And I'm grateful. I was in Maine earlier this week to tour the reentry facility there in southern Maine, and it's a fascinating look at a different way of housing and helping to rehabilitate incarcerated persons. So I'm grateful for that opportunity.
I'm Randy Brock. I represent Franklin County and Alberta and Argyle County in the Senate, and I'm the Senate Minority Leader. I'm grateful for serving in a General Assembly that probably is unique in the United States. We had a briefing, legislative briefing for the upcoming session last Friday in Montpelier, which virtually everybody from all over the state showed up. And the energy and excitement and the willingness to do what we need to do in Vermont, recognizing that we have some incredible challenges that we're facing for this upcoming session. And it's being in a body like that is something that I'm very, very grateful for.
Good morning, Senator Bob Norris. I too cover Franklin County to include the town of Alberg and Grand Isle County. I sit on Senate Judiciary and Senate Gov Ops. I'm grateful for a very large, happy, healthy family going into this holiday season. If anybody needs to contact me for whatever reason, it's rnorris@legend.state.bt.us. I encourage you to reach out to me, otherwise I have no idea what's on your minds.
Good morning, I'm Matt Walker. I represent Swanton and Sheldon. Swanton, off to a great start. It is my first meeting. I want to hear the bell ring. We want to hear the song. I'm also a boys basketball coach at Missisquoi Valley Union High School. We have our first scrimmage tonight and first game on Saturday. And I am grateful for 20 years ago, my wife Patty Jo and I, 20 plus years ago and then several decades ago, were drawn to building a friendship with a budding rock star that we would have no idea 20 years later. We're in the same room working in two totally different areas from where we used to be in international transportation and logistics, and now we're trying to find ways to help and lead our community. So today I get to say that my wife and I are grateful for knowing Melinda and building a friendship 20 years ago that we've now reconnected here decades later. So thank you very much.
I love that.
What committees?
I serve on the House Transportation Committee.
Perfect, thank you.
Hey, I'm up. So I also woke up this morning realizing that I was supposed to make cookies, and I think all of you should be thankful that I didn't. Just an example of collaboration. Recently, the Franklin Grand Isle BBF Council awarded a $1,000 grant, which we split up between Sheldon Food Shelf, Northwest Family Foods, Fairfield, Champlain Islands, and Enosburg. We each took $200 to use for gas vouchers for families with young children who need to come to the food shelf or need to access services. So we split that up. I had the privilege last week, I took 3 round trips to Hardwick. 2 of them to watch one of my granddaughters play basketball. And the third one was on Friday. I have a small 2-foot by 3-foot foam model railroad board that I take to Hardwick Elementary School. I'm actually a certified level 1 volunteer in Orleans Southwest Supervisory Union. So I take it to the school and I let the kindergarten kids and the first grade kids run the train during the day. And at the end of the day, as I'm getting ready to come home, we also bring our granddaughters back for the weekend with their father. And one of my granddaughters says, "Oh, here, Papa, I have some fan mail for you." And the first grade kids, after I did them first, and after I did them, the first graders, each one of them took a piece of paper and handmade a thank you note for. I was going to bring the stack of them, but it was kind of really cute. It was really cute, but I had a great time. And in March, there'll be the Model Railroad Train Show out in St. Albans, out at the Collins-Burley Complex, and I'll be there with my big board, which is about half the size of this table set. And I also let the kids run for the day.
It's special. People are very touchy-feely about this.
Okay. I'm Eric Peterson. I'm the Regional Director for Vermont Adult Learning in Franklin Grand Isle counties. I guess I have to say I am very grateful for all of you in the room here today and those of you who've been in the room over the past 7 years that I've been working for Vermont Adult Learning up here. Some of you have heard already, but I am moving on from Val, and I am returning to my home planet of Capstone Community Action down in Barrie to be the program manager for their disaster recovery program down there, their disaster case management program down there. So this was one of the first meetings I attended when I came up here almost 7 years ago. I had a meeting with Lamoille County when I was working in Morrisville with Will Eberly, who was the field services director there, and he introduced me to Kristen Pryor, because I knew I was going to be coming up here, and I was just like, hey, who's the field services director up in Franklin County? I'm going to be going up there. He's like, oh, that's Kristen Pryor. She's a rock star. You're going to love her. So he introduced me to her, and she was gracious enough to introduce me to a bunch of people when I first landed up here. And the first thing she said was, you've got to attend the community partnership meetings every month. Anybody who's anybody is going to be there, and all of you here were wonderful about welcoming me and bringing me in and making me a part of the community and helping me navigate the systems and the programs up here. So thank you all so much. I'm gonna miss you all dearly.
Thank you, Eric, for everything that you've done throughout the Okay. Yeah, we threw a cookie party for
Was it one that you made?
But I heard.
Oh,
Throw.
thank you so much.
That was my 6 a.m.
Thank you. I'm Joe Halko, Director of Community Relations here at NCSS, and I am grateful this morning that once again we have the opportunity to engage with our local legislators, both senators and representatives. I keep saying this, that I've lived in other states, and we have opportunities here to engage with our local legislators that I'm going to tell you, in some states, it's not all that easy. So again, I want to thank all of you that are here in person and also via Zoom. I had also received a couple emails from individuals that wanted to be here, but absolutely couldn't change their schedule. So once again, thank you all for being here this morning.
Okay, and before I go, I'm gonna call on, there's 2 people that joined us a little bit after I called on people on the screens. So if you'd like to do an introduction and something you're grateful for, Megan.
Hi, I'm Megan. I just started at Voices Against Violence as the Family Services Coordinator. And one thing I'm grateful for is my cats. Their names are Butter and Tortellini.
Thank you. And Karen?
Wait, is this Megan's first meeting?
Oh, and Megan,
Megan's first
welcome.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Yes.
Apologies if having some problems with technology this morning. I'm Karen Gear. I'm a public health nurse for the St. Albans District Office. And I'm feeling grateful for friends and family this time of year.
Thank you, Karen. And my name is Melinda White. I'm the Recovery Coach Supervisor in the Emergency Department through the Turning Point of Franklin County. And I'm not sure if the ink is dry, Denise, and I should be adding something yet or not.
No, you can add.
Okay. And also, go ahead and describe it because I don't know the specific mat lead.
Yeah, the mat. Yep.
The mat lead for the blueprint in this area. Both new roles, no longer with Howard Center, but they remain a valuable partner in the work that I do. And I'm grateful for, when Matt said what he said, it brings me back to 20 years ago, and he's probably one of the only people in this room that knew me before when I was really not balanced. So it helps me to reflect with a lot of gratitude on knowing where I was 20 years ago and even 13. And like Mary, I have a sobriety anniversary coming up on December 28th. 2011 was my original commitment to that new life, and it is sometimes, you know, the days fly, the weeks, months, and years, and yet when I have those moments of reflection to realize what was going on in previous life and where I am today, and knowing that it has very little, if anything, to do with me and everything to do with the people who are there for me, It keeps me humbled and grateful to have an opportunity to do hopefully a little bit to help people who don't have hope, people who are struggling with homelessness and addiction issues and criminal histories, and being able to identify with what they're going through and also know that there is a different way. And it's the people in these rooms that make it possible, as well as the recovery community. So I'm grateful for being under the Recovery Center umbrella. And also grateful for the work I do on the Police Advisory Board, on the VTAR Board, with this group. I'm gonna miss Eric, and I'm grateful I have a recovery program so I can call my sponsor and deal with my abandonment issues after this meeting. Grateful to know how to handle my heartbreak these days, but also excited for you. I'm gonna miss you a lot.
I'm gonna miss you too.
Maybe you'll let her
Earlier your statement in
Yeah.
Melinda and I, for 6 years, have been a part of the greatest COSA team in the universe, the Restorative Justice Center.
Through the
here
restorative
locally.
justice, yeah.
Okay.
And grateful for cookies. I can't
Yes.
believe I didn't say that
Yeah.
first.
Okay, so again, we do have cookies and coffee in the corner. Please get them whenever you'd like. So now let us do the minute approval of our November 1st meeting. You had received the packet. This is interesting.
Security coming to escort you.
You're done. You signed out. You're out of here. I'm gonna escort you off the property. It's a crank call.
Oh, okay. Have a great day.
So somebody apologized, they dialed the wrong number.
Oh.
So, anyway, so as I was saying, you received the minutes in your packets, as well as those that are here in the room. Do I have a motion to approve? Amy, yes? And a second?
Seconded.
John, okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the minutes pass. In a sense, as they should, but anyway. So now it is time, every year what we do is we only have 1-year term limits on the executive committee, so basically every year we re-up or have new members, that sort of thing. As you can see, we had this all set prior to the news we received this morning. But at any rate, for 2024, those that are up for re-election, Melinda White, John Gordon, Eric will of course be departing us, Crystal Lampman and myself. And if anyone else is interested in serving on the executive committee, Mary? Mary, okay. So Mary,
I'll tag you in.
Back on. Tag in.
So Mary Pickner. Okay, so that being said, can I get a motion to approve the following group to be the executive leadership? Is nobody else put up their hand, I don't believe. Anyone on Zoom who's, Megan, maybe because I cut you off, you might like to, yeah. Look, she's like, no. Okay, so if we could have a motion to approve Melinda White, John Gordon, Mary Pickner, Crystal Lampman, and Joe Helko as the executive committee for 2024.
So moved.
Denise, second.
I'll second.
Eric, okay.
Your last official,
That's
your
good.
last official.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And there are not.
Thank you all.
So, and by the way,
It's not cookies, but it is fries at Mimo's.
and by the way, I think it's important to note as we end another year, this is the only community partnership that continues to meet in the state of Vermont. Back in 2009, maybe Senator Brock may remember this, there was a point in time where the state had individuals throughout the state that were in charge of these community partnerships, and they were actually being funded through the state. They then reduced the role by 50%, and then the following year completely eliminated it, and I believe that was 2009. At that point in time, all these partnerships had to make a decision, what are we gonna do? We no longer have that leadership from the state level. And to this community's credit, We are the only community partnership that continues to meet, and that's 14 years after it was eliminated. That says a lot for this community, for all of you, and for the collaboration that takes place in Franklin and Grand Isle County that, quite frankly, doesn't take place throughout the entire state at the same level. So you're all to be commended for that. And that's the reason we're still here. And that's why I always greatly appreciate everybody who takes time out of their busy schedules every month. So with that being said, as we do every year, we invite the legislators here. The legislators, first of all, are invited every month. But as we know, they're very busy from January through May, sometimes through June, and then even sometimes in the fall. But we do appreciate if they have the opportunity to attend a meeting at any time during the off session. But certainly, it's always great to be able to engage with them prior to the session and then back in June, or in June, I should say, following the session. As we all know, and you heard from many of them already this morning,
Recording in progress.
they serve on various committees. So the first thing that comes to mind sometimes is, well, that's not a committee that, has an impact on maybe what I'm doing. You know what? Every single senator and representative votes. And they need to have information. And without the information, they're gonna vote with whatever they have at their disposal that they understand about a certain bill that they're voting on. So I always say that every single representative and senator is critically important because they all vote and they all need information, and believe me, they're being bombarded by a whole lot of individuals on a whole different number of asks, many that have nothing to do with human services. So this is an opportunity to at least give them a bit of a glimpse into some of the things that maybe are pressing needs that you see that you'd like them to be aware of. I'm going to step away from asking or doing anything around mental health because we just had a legislative breakfast in here last Thursday. And I, again, appreciate that all of these legislators were at that breakfast as well. So with that, let's start with, do you want to start screen or in person?
Why don't we start on this screen?
And what we'd like to do is just, each of you has an opportunity to just kind of give us an overview as you're going into session, things that you see. And then following that, we will have kind of a Q&A on any topic that people would like to ask you or make you aware of. Does that sound fair? But we would like to know from each of your perspectives as you're ready to go into session, the things that you see as major challenges, obstacles, that sort of thing. So we'll start on the screen and then we'll go around.
Before we start, I think you all might be challenged, the folks on Zoom may not be able to see you very well.
So turn the lights on?
I was just saying, I'm happy to vacate my seat if one of you wants to come and join the table so that people online can see you well. So I'm gonna vacate my seat, and so now one of you should feel obligated to sit.
We can.
I certainly can't.
Thank you, Jess.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
I'm happy for the bill. You want to swap?
Okay.
If they can see that. It might be better if they took their seats over there since the camera's pointing right.
Yeah, that's good. That'll be best. Let's just sit off.
We'll slide around.
I think I'm gonna stay put so I can.
Yeah, you need to.
As the host.
I didn't leave my cookies
The three of us do, so they can sit here.
There you go.
Yeah, sit up here.
This is the hot seat, Bob. You can sit here.
Sorry, everybody. Sorry, not sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you, Amy.
No, Matt. No, Matt. Here. Line white.
Well, I'm glad I'm near the bell, because I can hit the bell if the legislator says something that's really inappropriate.
There you go.
We also have the gavel if needed. Okay,
It may look like a projector, but it's actually a missile launcher.
Okay, so let's start with the representatives that we have on the screen. I'm gonna go first to Representative Josie, and then to Representative Hango. So we'll start with Josie
Okay, just want to clarify, what, I sort of missed the question because my dog was there. So just sort of what I think is coming down the pipeline is.
Yeah, and give an overview of what the work is that you do.
You know, I'm on the ag committee, and honestly, right now, I'm not sure what our marching orders are gonna be. One thing that I really wanna work on is, in addition to farm worker housing, I've seen a real need for farmer housing. I think a lot of farmers plow their money back into their operation, and they're living in substandard housing. I know out here in Grand Isle, we have at least one farmer who just got, is gonna be moving from a 1981 mobile home where she's lived for, I think, 20 years with her family, to a modular home where she got funding from VHCB and a bunch of other organizations. One thing I noticed in Grand Isle, in hearing all the introductions, I heard a lot of folks from St. Albans and Franklin County, but I don't hear a ton of Grand Isle. And that's something I kind of slowly want to work on. We're not rolling in services out here. And a lot of my people, especially the folks I work with at the food shelf, I've been there now for almost 2 years. They don't have transportation, and we don't have a public transportation. We have one bus that leaves from Alberg that goes to St. Albans. So I'm trying to talk to folks in the transportation committees to see, like, what can we do? Is there a way that we can help folks out here? Because, you know, Grand Isle it's the only county in the state that doesn't connect to any landmass except Canada. So I feel like Grand Isle is its own little special place, which is partly why I love it, but partly why I feel like I really have to advocate for Grand Isle. And I do send a lot of the folks I know who need services to St. Albans, because everything that happens that you all do is amazing. I'm not denigrating that. I love what you do so much. I'd like it to be closer. I'm very deeply concerned about hunger and food insecurity for everybody. And the letter from the tax commissioner, I think, was an alarmist letter about property taxes going up 18%. That's the administration saying that that's sort of their plan. I think we can all work together to come up with something that is going to be affordable for Vermonters, because I don't think anyone can afford an 18% increase in their property taxes. So those are, and you know, I also climate and climate mitigation. And the other thing, and this is my last comment, is I feel like we need to be mindful about public health and safety, because I feel like, and it hasn't started quite so much in Franklin and Grand Isle County, but you know, they're finding guns and drugs at the Heinsberg Elementary School because there was a chase, and that's where the gun got dropped. And gun safety worries me, and the uptick in gun violence that we're seeing in Vermont has me very alarmed. And I'm guarded, but I want to make sure that doesn't come here. And I'm not sure, honestly, how that happens. But also, if there are any organizations that work with farmers or farming communities, please reach out to me, because I'd love to talk to you guys about what's happening more specifically and not take up time in the whole meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Representative Hingo?
Thank you. There are a number of issues that I've been hearing about and seeing with my colleagues across the spectrum. As Representative Josie just said, public safety is a really important issue, and it's quite broad. It could take our entire meeting if we wanted to talk about it today. But there are some recommendations that will be coming forth that I think will be helpful and reasonable. And I'm hoping, as I said in my introductory remarks, that many of us can work together to find the solutions for some of these larger issues instead of being divisive. Healthcare workforce is important to me. I have a few bills in around licensure compacts, particularly social work is one of the big ones that I'm co-sponsoring, and that's important to all of you in your field. We really need to keep our workers in the whole healthcare sector, and we need to get more workers to come into the state. So compact licensure will certainly help with that. Mental health is a huge concern because I feel that it's at the root of a lot of the things that we see in our communities. Our families are struggling with a number of different conditions, and I think it would be really helpful to have a stronger mental health support system. We just need to figure out what that looks like. I'm particularly concerned about veterans. So I was recently appointed to the excuse me, National Conference of State Legislatures Military and Veterans Affairs Task Force. And when we begin meeting in the spring, I'll be really interested to see what my colleagues around the country are doing in terms of mental health supports for veterans. Probably the biggest thing that I'm working on, oh, let me back up for just a minute because this kind of ties in with it. Many of my colleagues are talking about disaster mitigation, community resilience efforts. This is really important, especially within the context of the flooding this summer. So there's a lot of conversation about that, and I've been involved in some of those. But the biggest thing that I'm working on right now is probably housing, and that's housing for all. It starts with having more numbers of units. The bottom line is Vermont hasn't built nearly enough new units of housing in the last 40 years. So it starts with being able to build housing. And that starts with easing up on some of the regulations that have prevented us over the past 40 years from building those units of housing. So housing for all, homelessness will be helped. The situation will be helped if we have more units. One of the things Josie talked about is housing for farmers themselves, for young farm families starting out, taking over their parents' farm or buying into a farm that's looking to sell out. Those folks don't really have any place to live because the cost of housing is so high. So all of this together is like the missing middle. And I think it's really important to address those folks who are maybe just starting out, they're first generation home buyers, they're young people, they're just starting their careers. It's important to focus on them because then we're bringing in more workforce from outside of the state to support the industries that have lost workers. So those are the things that I'm primarily working on. I have several other things that I'm working on that maybe aren't so relevant to this conversation, but I do know that we're all really busy, and I can say honestly that my colleagues across the aisle have been great about collaborating with me, and I'm really grateful for that. And we're really hoping to be able to accomplish some things in this upcoming session that will help all Vermonters. Thanks.
Thank you. And I think we'll come to the room now, and I'll start to my right with Senator Rock.
Well, thank you. If I were to say what I think our two biggest problems are that we'll be working on this year, the first is demographics, people, and the second is housing. Those recur as problem areas in Vermont and have for a period of time and are getting worse. We don't have enough people to fill the jobs that we have. We have a large number of jobs. I won't give you the number of how many jobs we have open because it depends upon which person's report you look at. And as that old saying goes, that 87.8% of all statistics are made up on the spot, particularly quoted by politicians. But that said, you can't walk down the street without seeing a business that has a sign that says "Help Wanted," and that's a clue. And we have this tremendous problem, and one of the reasons we have the problem is in attracting new people, and we see this with the medical center in Burlington in particular. In trying to get new professional staff, they find that the biggest impediment is they can't find a place for them to live. I had a woman call me up not long ago who was looking for housing and help to find housing because she was living in Highgate and she works as a nurse at the medical center in Burlington, and that was the closest place that she could find a place to live for herself and her child. What are the problems? And I'm on the finance committee, and that we call it the tax committee, but we don't say it publicly because no one wants to elect somebody who sits on the tax committee. But we have to look at where do we get our revenue from and how do we do it? And if I went around the room and I put you on the spot and said, how many of you would be willing to accept an 18% tax increase in your property taxes next year? Willingly. And as I look for a show of hands, I don't think I'd see as many hands as we'd like, because it's always that notion of, well, I want to tax somebody, but it should be somebody else, that guy over there, the guy who's wealthy or whatever. And there's a limit to that as to how far you can go, because people are mobile. And we've certainly seen it. We've certainly seen it in other states that have high tax policies. New York, as an example, the population leaves and goes someplace else where the climate is more favorable. And so there's a balance as to what we can do with taxes. And so we've got to confront that, and we've also got to confront the economic situation that we're in. We have been awash in money from federal COVID relief funds over the past couple of years, and the party's over. Those funds are not coming, and they're not coming back. And one of the things that we did, and I know I fought against it constantly, the temptation to use that federal money to start new programs without recognizing the fact that once the federal money ended, where's the money coming from to support the new programs? And that's a problem we have. We're one of the highest tax states in the nation. The population, in terms of attracting people, we have a great environment, and we did very well post or during the pandemic in attracting people to this new environment, which was perceived to be a much safer environment. And we want to keep those people. And one of the ways to keep those people is not to price ourselves out of the market because others are encouraging people to go to their locations for the same reasons that we have a need. They're short of people too. One way you can help is have more kids quickly. And recognize that in 21 years we'll have a benefit.
We'll have the problem solved.
But absent that, we have a very low reproduction rate in Vermont. And that's hurting us. And we have the second oldest state in the nation, which also is a problem. In the housing area, one of our problems is regulation. We spent a lot of money, millions of dollars in the past year, providing a variety of new programs or programs to improve the housing situation. We made it easier to build a variety of housing, particularly in the areas that we designated downtowns and areas like that. The problem is we loosened our regulations for getting new housing in this vast amount of space, which amounted to 0.3% of the state's land area. And that's not good enough. When you have an Act 250 process, and I support Act 250, and certainly its intent to ensure that Vermont has a pristine environment on the one hand, but I'm concerned about the time that it takes to get things done. We have a permitting process in which we say, well, the permitting process isn't a long process because once you put your permit in 95, 96, large percentage of the cases, it goes through within a relatively short period of time. But if there's an appeal, the average appeal is a year to get a permit approved through an appeal process. And one person who's enchanted with a project, it's very easy for them to file an appeal, particularly a person who has a degree of wealth who can hire a lawyer and drag the process out. That is a real problem, and we find that housing projects and housing, and by a project, that's 10 or more houses. It's not a big thing. We need to go back and take a look at our regulatory environment and say, can we speed the process up, but still maintain the kind of environment that we want? That's something I think is really important for us to do. Speed is the issue because that's one of the problems we're faced with elsewhere, because other jurisdictions have found ways to get projects approved quickly so that housing can be built. And it's not that you want sprawl, it's not that you want housing every place, but we're too narrow in making exceptions to say that you don't have to go through the entire municipal process, which in many places takes a very long time. And then once you've done that, go back and go through the entire Act 250 process, duplicating many of those same steps over and over again. And that's dragging our time up. And so you want to build a project that has a significant number of houses. We see this in South Burlington as a classic example, in which it takes 3 years to get something done. That's not good enough for what we have. And we want to take some projects to try to see how we can improve that process and make it faster. I also want to see what we could do to attract more people to Vermont. We had a couple of programs that are on hold right now and that need to be thought through again to attract people. One was a remote worker program in which we actually paid people to come to Vermont. We offered them $5,000 to $10,000 a person for relocation expenses. And you say, why should we pay someone to come to Vermont? Well, the answer is, again, you look at the numbers. And you look at the numbers of the people that we attracted. We spent an average of somewhere around $3,500 to $3,800 a person. And depending on their salaries, if their salaries were middle income or higher, we got that money back in tax and other revenues in the first year. The return on investment was significant, and that's, again, one of the things that we need to work on better, is look at what we do legislatively and then measure whether or not it actually is achieving what we wanted to achieve. Are we getting a return on investment? Are we getting a benefit? Are taxpayers getting something for the money that they spend? And we're working, and I'm on a co-chair of a committee on government accountability that wants to embed in legislation that we pass look-back procedures that measure what we did to know, did we in fact achieve what we intended to do, and did we get a result from that? And I think we're going to find some significant benefits of doing things perhaps a little bit differently. And I could go on for the next 2 hours, but I won't, because I know that my colleagues have an hour or two each to tell about what they're doing, so I'm going to shut up for a minute.
Tough act to follow.
You know, I always love it when I follow Senator Brown. I guess my first response would be what the senator said. I mean, covered a lot of territory there. There's a lot of issues that will attempt to be addressed this year in Montpelier. Too many to go over, obviously. I can't sum it up quite as eloquently. But in Senate Judiciary, we'll be dealing with several things from gun control, which goes without saying. Small quantities of drugs being carried on for individuals for personal use. It goes on and on. Public safety is going to be a huge issue this year, obviously. Whereas I know the state right now is approximately 53, 54 positions down throughout the state of Vermont. And I'm sure many municipalities, with the exception of, we're very fortunate here in St. Albans, because St. Albans City, under the direction of Chief Lamont and company, are doing a really great job. As a matter of fact, they're kind of setting the bar throughout the state as to how things should be running with their embedded clinicians and their patrol cars and so on and so forth, their dispatching issue. We're going to be dealing with dispatching, communications. Dispatching is not our area, but communications, public safety is a big one. And we're also going to be looking at a bill being introduced this year. These are just bills that I know presently. I can assure you that. It seems like our job down here is just introduce as many bills as we can. And 100 of them come to your committee, and they go, what we refer to as the wall, and during the course of our 4.5 months, maybe 10 come off the wall. And the second you go back and attempt to address some of those, but they don't all get addressed, and then after year 2, they come off the wall, obviously. But The bill that I've reached out for through one of my members in Senate Gov Ops is a study, another study to see what we're doing wrong. But it has to do with county government. Where is county government now? Where can it be? Where can it be in the future, and public safety within county government? Because we have a problem here in Vermont and good portions of New England actually where there's no county government. There's county elected officials, but there's no county government. We don't have a board, we don't have a commission, we don't have any of that stuff. So we find out in many tabletop exercises that I've been to is we'll sit around, good group of people who care about things from emergency workers to fire department to police and so on and so forth. And we find out that if a natural disaster or something happens locally, you know, the state says, well, we'll do this for you, we'll do that for you, and then it sounds all good, and they say, but we're going to prioritize how we respond to these disasters depending on, you know, who needs the work the most. So we realize that first responders are our best ally. But the problem we run into is locally the people say, well, where do we go? And they say, well, we have to go to the state because there's no in-between here. And we find that in many different areas of what we're looking. We find there's a section missing as to where do people go when they're dealing with problems, when they have concerns about, you know, communities and disasters and so on and so forth. So I'm not saying anything's going to become of this, but we're going to at least look at it through a study group and see what we can do to improve the potential of county government. However, having said that, we certainly have to look at the aspects of, such as Senator Brockman deals with finances, taxation, you know, and basically I'm speaking for myself. We just can't afford any more taxation here in the state of Vermont. I mean, we look at, you know, 18 to 20% potentially on the real estate taxes, and, you know, 20% on our DMV taxes, and it's just every time that we turn around, our payroll taxes, you know. There's only 647,000 people in the state of Vermont, of which not all pay taxes. So we really have to, it's going to be a tough year for us this year as far as what little bit of money we may have, which direction we go with it, so on and so forth, whether we just divvy it up and so on. And I don't know how much money we do have, and if we don't, that's Senator Brock's responsibility to find out how we get that money, so I like that. But it's, what Joe was saying is true that, you know, I sit on GovOps and Judiciary. I don't sit on the money committees, but I do have a vote on every bill that comes to the floor in the Senate. And I need to know and hear from you folks. And I realize we all come from different spectrums of what we do and so on and so forth, but everything is important. Everything is important to me. It's all important to you. You all have your own little spoke in the wheel, but we may have to prioritize certain things. So I'm saying that without promising anything. You know, I don't know what's going to be left over as far as after this year gets done. It's going to be an interesting session, to say the least. So that's my spiel. Like Senator Brock, I said everything besides that. So I'm moving on to Senator Renner.
Thank you. Like the bird, Renner. Thanks so much, everybody. Like Representative Levitt, I serve on an agriculture committee. Mine is in the Senate, of course. We're coping with some of the same issues. We've got farmers who can't afford to feed themselves. So many farmers are themselves on food stamps, essentially, right? And there seems to be something wrong with that picture, right? They're supposed to be helping feed the rest of the state, and they themselves can't afford to eat. The housing is a huge issue for them as well as their workforce. There's so much there that is sort of under the radar, because unless you live in one of these rural counties, you don't even understand that, right? The institutions committee that I sit on will be dealing with, among other things, 19 buildings that the state owns that have extensive flood damage. The mechanicals were in the building, so the HVAC, the electricals, the elevators in many cases were in the basement and are just ruined. So we have to start over. We have to figure out what are we going to do with these buildings, how do we rehab them, do we elevate them, do we sell them, what do we do with these buildings? And then of course we have this crisis in the corrections area. We've got to figure out how do we find the money and the space to put a youth detention facility, a new women's correctional facility, and so forth. So huge challenges, in addition to all the others that have been mentioned. The fact that public safety is a massively important issue in every corner of Vermont right now. The opioid crisis, housing, the food shelves are seeing record numbers of people showing up. So it's going to be a very busy session, and I look forward to getting started. Thank you.
Well, good morning again. Thank you for having me, Matt Walker, Swanton. Sheldon, I sit on the Transportation Committee in the House, and there's a lot more specifics and a lot more, transportation's mostly nonpartisan. Everybody wants good roads and good bridges. The only partisan there is probably in the climate mitigation, electric vehicle charging, how much to spend, where, and how much. That's probably the most partisan piece that happens in that committee. The rest of it is really straightforward in terms of how's the best way to go about bridges and roads, and how much money back to municipalities and how much the state keeps in that area. I'd like to, and I will talk a few bit more about transportation, but there's a couple of things that really jump out about the presentation from Vermont Housing and Finance Administration last week, into the numbers, the 87.8% of stats made up by politicians. Listening to the presentation and being a freshman, I've Googled it multiple times. I have a hard time believing it. There's only 5,100 babies born in Vermont last year. How are we going to sustain in 20 years the limited amount of people that are graduating from high school now? And there's only 5,100 babies born in Vermont. In 18 years, you're looking for new taxpayers. 5,100 out of our state of 647,000 or 660,000. The demographics isn't a slow, gradual fall; it's a cliff, and that is a staggering thing. That there just won't be the number of people there to help solve things. That one gets me. And in a stagnant population setting, I just really couldn't understand. Yes, we have we have a huge short-term rental issue to look at in terms of the amount of second homes and amount of homes available on the Airbnbs and whatnot. But one of the things I learned last Friday that I kept asking to myself, how could we have a stagnant population yet a housing crisis in the need of so many more houses when we have no more people? Vermont is a national leader in the massively decreased size of households in my lifetime. We used to be up over 3+ people per household, and now we are down to 2 and encroaching to just about drop under 2 people per household, 2.09 or something to that effect I learned on Friday. Divorce and babies are a big problem for our housing and our tax paying. Now, I'm not suggesting either of them are something that society changes, but that is a real big reality, and it's staggering. It really made me jump back when I looked at it. The reason we need so many more houses was tenfold in the presentation. But one of the, besides the Airbnb, the short-term rentals, the Act 250, there were 10 of them, and they put them out there very, very well. But the one that really jumped back to me is, how can we need so many more houses when we have no more people? And changes in society have really driven that. And our housing, large households, traditional households, multiple bedrooms, et cetera, doesn't fit with the almost 2 and about to drop under 2 people per household model. Our housing stock doesn't match where our society has moved, and I found that very interesting. The other part I'd have to say that we really need to understand is there is this, somebody called an alarmist letter from the governor about 18 to 20% increase in property taxes, and Senator Brock and Senator Norris had mentioned how most people are not willingly going to put their hand up to pay more taxes. But here's what I see in the leadership in the legislature, and they won't be talked about, but I feel the need to bring it up. There's not an appetite to stop raising taxes. Everybody knows they can sell that house right now for a lot of money. There's very limited stock, the demand is high, so there is, if not us, sitting at the table to pay those taxes. There's a row and a line outside the door, someone's buying it. We don't know where we're going to move if we sell it. We don't know where we're going to be able to afford to live, and we may have to leave the state. But do not think that there isn't a line somewhere, still is. Yes, it's starting to trail down because of interest rates. Remember that, the housing is slowing down because of interest rates, not because the taxes have been under control or because people can't afford it. Not because they can't afford it. The line to buy that other home and to turn it into an investment property or to turn it into some other piece or to use it only a few weekends a year or whatever it is, just be very aware. We have not found the high level of tax rate in the legislature yet that it hasn't been paid. There's not a massive delinquency sale going on. There's not a massive foreclosure going on. People are struggling. We are making policies over and over again in this unbelievable supermajority like the one that's come to me from constituents, that we've made it incredibly hard to get through state inspection now. And it forces rural poor that have to rely on that car to buy and find a new used car more frequently because one little light on one tire doesn't work, but it's $500 to replace the sensor, but the tire's fine. That's a horrible policy for rural poor that need their car. But for somebody selling, and for somebody selling cars, and somebody hide behind a safety issue, and I don't mean hide behind, but to have that safety issue, we know that's not, if the seatbelt works and the light doesn't, and we have no common sense to move past it, but the rules say, we hurt the rural poor with that type of activity. But I guess really we want to throw that out. We don't have the money to pay those taxes. The people that work for us don't have the money to pay those taxes, but there is a big line ready and willing to come buy that house and pay those taxes. That scares me, especially when we only have 5,100 kids born in the last year. And that we need more, we're about to go under 2 people per household. Our structure doesn't support that. We really need to look at where we're at with Act 250. Not only do we need new housing, we need different housing than we've needed in the past. And there is not, no matter what you read and hear, I do not believe there is any change in the appetite for new programs and more spending from what I see in the legislature, the way it's led today. I just don't believe it. They have not found it. The money is rolling in, and the sales of the houses continue to roll. So until we change the balance of that power and listen to where the governor's trying to take us, expect it to continue to happen. That's the way I feel about that, and that's what I've learned in my freshman year. It is the rural, poor, and unrepresented that the policies do not help. That is mine, and we're going to conserve 50% of the land by 2050. If you have X amount available, and you're going to take half of it off the market in an already incredibly expensive place, what does that do to the people in this Franklin County that are trying to live? Where are they going to get that house? Where are they going to go? You're going to take half the land off the market by 2050 and then somehow think that we're going to go down in price? That's not going to happen. I just want to make sure that in my time in the legislature that I get opportunities like this, and Joe, I appreciate the invitation, Melinda, to at least make sure you heard it in some other way. In some other way. That's just what I've learned in my freshman 1-year piece. Now, as far as the Transportation Committee goes, I'm concerned about the increase in traffic that will come, and remember pre-COVID, exit 18, 19, 20, and 21 back up unbelievably dangerously at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and 6 o'clock. Exit 21 in Swanton, near and dear to my constituents' hearts, right? That's incredibly dangerous up over the rise. We need a plan to address all of the northbound exit ramps before there's a major accident. I lived in Illinois for 20 years, and the only way that things substantially changed, unfortunately, were after major tragedy and accidents in the rebuilding of certain roads. That's a big issue. I mentioned registration, that comes through our committee. I think that type of thing is a big issue. There's very specifics along that. I spend, for the committee piece, and because I'm involved in that particular jurisdiction, and I can't fix housing, and no one person can, and I'm not involved in the tax department, transportation's related. I'm concerned about the northbound exits. I'm concerned about 105. I hear regularly about whether that's an enforcement issue, it's a speed issue, where are we going to go? That's the type of thing that I hear about and work on in those committees. I mentioned inspection, and I will finish up if I have to put my glasses on to see the last couple of notes. So thank you very much, and appreciate the opportunity, and I hope I didn't get the bell.
No bell.
No bell.
Can I just chime in for a quick second? This is Representative Levitt. Is that okay if I, because something
Yes.
Representative Walker just said sort of triggered me. One thing that is not being addressed is the property tax transfer funds are not being allocated the way that they were intended to be used. And fully a third, if not up to 2/3 of that money is not being used for affordable housing. And that is a decision that the Scott administration is making and has made since day one. So once we address that issue and get that money allocated correctly, as the legislature determined way before Matt and I started, there might be some more funding there, but let's understand that it's not just the supermajority, as Matt said, that's causing some of the problems. Some of it is coming from the administration not spending the money the way it had been asked to be allocated.
Okay, questions, Amy?
I just want to pick up surprisingly, I want to pick up the transportation theme a little bit and just say, as we're talking about transportation, let's definitely keep in mind, walkers, pedestrians, bicyclists, and transit. Those things are generally underfunded. If people can move around in their communities more easily using their own power, many people will, as long as it's safe. And if we are funding transit, we are under-transited community. We already talked about not being able to get to the islands or not be able to get off the islands with public transit, and people would. It's underfunded. So I'm just gonna put out there that as we're talking about transportation, those pieces should be part of the mix because they help with safety and community and well-being and all that kind of stuff. That wasn't a question. Sorry.
Thanks. Melinda White, a couple things that were coming to mind, touching on substance use and housing. Those are two humongous issues, and one of the solutions, not for all, but for those that it is appropriate for, are the recovery residences. So I just want to kind of put in a plug for those. Senator Norris was extremely supportive last year in looking at that bill. One of the things that did pass, and one of the things that we're looking to change, is the language in it. It is not a landlord-tenant relationship, and yet it is still used with that word landlord. It's a different type of relationship, so just want to put some eyes on that bill and continue to support it because there is a need for those recovery residences to continue not only functioning and being supported, but also expand. It's a great bridge from people doing a residential inpatient facility to coming back out and not having to return to the location they were previously using in, being surrounded by safe, supportive, substance-free atmosphere and leadership to help them get connected with medical, clinical, and recovery services. Also want to throw out a plug and continue advocacy for the recovery centers and the recovery center program. So we have the 12 recovery centers in the state of Vermont. Recently on WCAX, if you Google Lila Bennett and the Newport Recovery Center, they just opened the first, they're calling it a sobering bed, a social detox bed. We're trying to get both for support of the recovery centers to refer to, but and also for those recovery residences that would support the removal of the landlord word. We need those types of beds across the state. So when somebody has to leave a recovery residence because they're struggling with use and it endangers the other people there, they have a safe place to go. In this community, anybody who is familiar with the PIP bed, the Public Inebriation Program, that had been running for years, and that recently ended approximately 3 months ago, and there's not a plan in place. We desperately need it. Denise and I are working on collecting accurate data, so I won't throw out statistics right now, but we're in the process between the police department and the hospital to collect those numbers, because there's a number of individuals being brought to the emergency department and they're not specifically in an emergency scenario once being medically reviewed, and they don't have any option of a place to go except the corrections facility. And for people who have never been arrested, never had a criminal record, that in itself is traumatizing. We're already struggling with mental health issues around trauma, people with substance use, people who survived COVID. So you keep stacking this up, and these individuals that we get to see after they're released from corrections with additional trauma makes it harder to get to the root of getting them on a healthy road to recovery. So advocacy for, whether we call it respite beds, that's something that Jeff Moreau and I have used in the past to advocate for these, sobering beds, respite beds, social detox, whatever you want to call it, but we need those in all counties so there's a safe place that is not bogging down the emergency departments across the state, and also not bringing people to a correction facility where it's really not an appropriate setup for them. And then the other thing too is to look at continuing the supportive, restorative approaches to helping people within the judicial system and the court system. I'm a big advocate for drug treatment court and would love to see that here. I had met with our previous state's attorney, and it is a huge undertaking, and it wasn't able to happen. It's a huge undertaking, not just for the state's attorney's department and the public defenders. It is a community effort, because there's a lot of work that goes not just to making it happen in a community, but sustaining it, and there's areas of the state that are doing it. So I just want to throw out a plug for that as well. And I'm going to stop so other people have a chance to throw out their points.
I'll pick up that thread a little bit, Melinda. From my perspective and where I sit kind of in this health service area, some of the big hits that we took during and after COVID was the closure of multiple long-term care facilities in our region, and a huge lack of memory care in our region. And so it is impacting the hospitals, so not just NMC, but hospitals around the state. not being able to discharge patients to a safe facility. There's no beds. So an option is for them to go to New York, and then they don't want to go to New York because their community, their family is all here. So that's a really big issue that we're seeing on behalf of the hospital, our care managers that are trying to manage patients and trying to figure out what is an appropriate setting for them to be discharged to from the hospital. The other big issue that we're facing right now as a care management community for elderly as well as anybody, the durable medical equipment, which is basically your wheelchairs, oxygen, walkers. What we've met recently with the companies that provide durable medical equipment, the reimbursement rates for that stuff has gone down so much. They used to stock it. We had 2 facilities up here where people could walk in and buy like that wheelchair for grandma who just had a hip replacement. We can't find it anymore. It's so hard. And then the transportation, so we could maybe get it in Chittenden County. To get it up here for people, it has become a huge, huge issue. So this is providing a burden, it's providing a burden on workers. So when you talk about workers and childcare, I know the legislature has done a great job addressing childcare in our region. The other side of that is people my age taking care of their elderly parents, having to take time off from work. So it's impacting production, and it's happening more and more often. And I don't see an end to it as our population continues to get older and there's less people and less places for them to be taken care of. You mentioned PIP, so I won't go back on that. Amy mentioned transportation. It's a huge issue for accessing medical and social services. A couple of bright spots that I just want to commend you all on that I'm really grateful. The Blueprint Expansion Project has had a huge impact in our region and our being able to employ more people in our primary care practices to address mental health and substance use disorder. And we're working with NCSS on a lot of that work. We're also working with our Savitas and Howard Centers, et cetera. So that's been a really big thing. We're really excited. It's a 2-year pilot, if you haven't heard of it, that Medicaid is funding to help us really kind of address mental health and substance use disorder after the pandemic. The Community Health Equity Partnership has been a really big bright spot for our community. Over the last year, we have redesigned our Accountable Communities for Health to focus on health equity. And we're really excited about the work that we're doing there as a community and partnership. The other thing that is really helpful is the migrant health insurance plans that now mothers or pregnant women and children under 18 have access to health care through the Medicaid plan for migrant health. I do see a need in us being able to sustainably fund the Bridges for Health program that helps address migrant health. The farmers depend on labor from migrants, and we do not have an acceptable or appropriate way to take care of their health right now. And so it's causing a lot of stress in our community. And I think we just need to do more with that. So I'm hoping that we can have that conversation. And then another bright spot that I'm excited about is people talking about resilience and health equity as it pertains to climate resilience and climate change. And really excited about the work that the Citizens Advisory Committee for Lake Champlain, which Senator Brock sits on, as well as the Lake Champlain Basin Program, and the new Champlain Adirondack Biosphere Network work that the Lake Champlain Basin Program has taken on. Anyway, so there's a lot of bright spots in my mind. I just want to thank anybody who had anything to do with those bills passing last year or the work that's been done on some of it. Still many challenges, but really thank you for coming today and engaging in this conversation with us. And I'm excited to work with you this year.
Awesome. We have a couple of hands, so I'm going to try to do this in the order in which they have appeared. So first, Senator Norris had a question.
Yes, I'm sorry. I know this is your time to, but I have to leave shortly. I have another engagement. In reference to the PIP program that you had mentioned, I know I sit on Joint Legislative Oversight. We sent the letter. We were all in agreement as far as supporting the program, its continuance. And the letter that came back was that it wasn't a matter of finances, it was a matter of staffing issues, both here in St. Albans and whatever else. I don't know if you received a copy of that letter or not.
No, we did not.
No, we did not.
And we had staff for that program.
Yeah, we
had staff for that program that had to leave their jobs.
Yeah.
Okay, because it came back to us as it was staffing and not.
In this
financing.
county, it wasn't staffing.
It wasn't staffing
No.
in this county.
No, we actually, yeah, those individuals ended up, a couple of them personally ended up, one is at the recovery center because she needed another job.
Okay,
So,
let me
yeah.
see if I can find that.
It might have
We
been
need to get
related
December
because it's a
12th.
larger agency issue.
Exactly.
It could have been like, when they're looking at their entire agency, it was through the Howard Center, that PIP program.
Okay.
But it's, and we're gonna get data to you. Melinda's working on that to just kind of understand the impact it's had on our community.
The
and
sooner the
the
better.
Services.
Yeah,
December 12th is our last joint legislative oversight committee meeting.
December 12th, as you
December
said?
12th.
Okay.
It's like next week.
Yeah, because the
Yeah.
location itself is not available, but I have another proposal for that. We can talk after.
That's right, I'll
the
still
different
follow
location.
up with this. I don't want to hold this off.
No, thank you for following up, and I know you addressed it when we heard about that closure, so,
Right.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. Be in touch. Thank you. And then I saw Matthew had a hand, and then I know we've got multiple hands, Mary, Eric, and John. So Matthew, if you'd like to go? And in the interest of time, we'll make it brief.
Okay, this is Matthew LaFleur. I use he and pronouns, but yeah. My question is, in the next legislative session, my big one is about the language we use. My big one, because for any votes or anything that comes to the floor, when you're talking to us as constituents, what language are you using? Are you using your legislative language, or are you using your plain language that the state has been I've been advocating across the state for? Because senior citizens, veterans cannot get what you say, plain and simple. They want to support you and vote for you, but they can't do that unless you tell them in their own language what you're trying to ask of them. Because you know what? It seems like it's jargon or complex like the medical system of Vermont to a point that nobody understands what you're saying or asking them about. So my question is, when will you start using plain language instead of legislative tongues to address your needs and concerns to the constituents of the state of Vermont? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt.
So that, what you're asking is to not only, I think when all of this stuff is written out, it's written out for like lawyers, but you would also like a version where it's, a fourth grade reading level so that most Vermonters could read and understand what is being put in the bills?
Yes, not only what's in the bills, but how the legislative interacts, when you're talking to constituents. You're correct. It's just when you bring up a bill or a vote or talk to your constituents to have their support on something, nobody wants to engage in that because you're still using that legislative mindset. We're not legislators out here. We're constituents, of Vermont. We would like to be treated in a way where we want to connect with you. But if we can't connect with you, we can't support you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. And I'm just gonna note we're at 10:34. I want to be mindful of the time. So anybody who does need to shift to something else, please feel free to do so. And anyone who's able to stay a few extra minutes will go and address the hands as they had appeared. Mary.
I just want to thank everyone and for being here and the legislators for being here. I would love it if you would loosen up the inspections so that I am not changing one light bulb or, the rust spot in the middle of the side of the vehicle that, and it's a frustration. I know that when I travel to New York State, just to Plattsburgh, I look around and go, oh my gosh, I think there's more rust than vehicle, but yet when I think about people who are able to afford to live here and are regulated beyond their means for so many different things, septic tanks, sound systems is another one, that you start to add these things up and go, can I afford to live here and what are my other choices? So not only keeping Vermonters here, but when people move here, to start thinking about how can we just have a reasonable expectation about things. So that's my number one. And when I think about the concern around violence and public safety, there is, and prevention folks, is that one of the beauties of a public health approach with prevention in it, your whole community gets better, not just targeting. And so when I look at the governor's safety thing, and there was zero prevention activities, but there was a whole lot of hiring and punishing and consequencing. But when we're improving the lives of everyone and creating a different way of living and targeting strategies that prevent the behavior and the mindset from ever forming, that's where your savings are. And that is very true for substance use, for vaping, for any public health thing. And I know you're all like shaking your head, but it's really true. It just takes a long time and it doesn't look sexy, and the results are that these things go down and you don't ever see the work being done. But it's been alive and well in this community, and we do it, you know,
For every
great
dollar that we
success.
spend on primary prevention, we save $18 on the back end of treatment and recovery. So, yep, just to add to what Mary's saying, you know, understanding that primary prevention is not harm reduction, it is primary prevention. So when we are able to put funding into primary prevention efforts, then, as Mary said, we don't ever see the back end of the problem when we do our jobs the way that we know we can.
And just, you know, because Matthew keeps asking us to use language, when we're talking about primary prevention, we're talking about keeping people from ever using a substance, from ever having a disease in the first place. So keeping people well.
And creating the idea of cleaning up the lake rather than taking the fish out and making them healthy and then putting them back in the lake. Let's just clean up the whole lake, and that has, you know, that pays off forever and ever. So, and if you want to learn about that, or strategies, there's me, or you know, Crystal, Amy, we're all, I would say, pros, but I can speak for these two ladies here. They are at statewide and nationally recognized folks. So, just saying.
And John, I'm sorry, and Eric and John are left. I'll let you guys duke it out. I know John had a hand before I went to the back wall.
Yeah, I'll hit cleanup even though I'm not our best batter.
And you're leaving us, right? Yeah, really.
Okay, John, go ahead and then Eric.
Okay, I'll try to go quickly.
Don't forget I
That's
can
never
reach the
happened.
bell, so.
That's never happened before. Yeah, just a couple of things that are certainly the height of my passion. And number one is the food security issue. I know as you're part of the finance deal, and I know that the Vermont Food Bank will be coming in, you know, asking for additional money. And I just can't say how much value that is. Just a couple of rather startling statistics. Through the first 10 months of this year, I have had 688 different families walk through my door for food in Sheldon, Vermont. The last 4 months, I'm averaging one a day, 30 families a month, 120 families who've never gotten food before, walking through my door asking for food. By the end of the year, I will distribute between 250,000 and 300,000 pounds of food over 10,000 people in Sheldon, Vermont. This is a huge issue, and the Vermont Food Bank they're my support mechanism. They're the mechanism that feeds me, Champlain Islands, Northwest Family Foods, and they're all saying the same thing. Jessica can tell you the same thing. Champlain Islands will tell you the same. We're all seeing those same kind of statistics. We're just seeing. We used to, back in years before, I used to call myself an emergency food shelf. People came to me when an emergency. I am a grocery store for between 350 and 400 families every month now. They walk through my door expecting to walk out with more than a grocery cart load of food. And it's a real challenge for us to do that. And the food bank is an important part of that. And I suspect that I'll be probably testifying when they get ready to ask for that money. The other issue, which is also an issue which I'm passionate about, and a lot of people here, we had a presentation by Larry Christ a couple of months ago about the child protection system. There was a working group formed by the Commissioner of DCF, Chris Winters, including several people from DCF, about 30 people altogether, and they have come up with a comprehensive modification to Bill H-169, which was initiated last year, but it didn't move anywhere because of the other priorities with health, with child care and other issues, housing issues. But it will be coming up to have some significant reforms for the Department of Children and Families. Right now, it's in House Judiciary. It'll go through House Human Services, then it'll come over to the Senate. I just spoke to Bob since he's on Judiciary. Because when it comes to the Senate, it'll come to Senate Judiciary. But please be looking for that bill because it's been a long time coming.
to get some reform to our child protection system. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Eric?
Yeah, so.
All right. Hit a home run, Eric.
I'll see what I can do. So again, just want to thank everybody in the room for all your support and everything over the last almost 7 years that I've been here. So I guess this being my last meeting, I'm going to try to summarize and encapsulate some thoughts from lessons I've learned over those last almost 7 years here. I'm going to time travel back a little bit to the late 2000 aughts. I was a workforce investment board coordinator in Central Vermont, and one of the first groups I got involved in when I got up here was the former Franklin Grand Isle Workforce Investment Board that was run by Kathy Lavoie, who I think everybody in the room knows. She's kind of a giant in the community. So back when I was a WIB coordinator, it was probably the last time the unemployment rate was as close to as being as low as it is today. And unfortunately, it's kind of the same big challenges then that we're seeing today, and we've heard our elected delegates talk about a lot of those issues in the room. And this isn't just for them, this is really for everybody in the room to think about. But Kathy Lavoie coined a term for these four things. She called them the Formidable Four, and it was three of the big ones back in the early 2000s. Transportation, childcare, housing, and kind of the fourth one that's a little more recent is substance use recovery and reintegration into the community from incarceration. And I think us as social service providers have been grappling with these for 20 years. And again, we talked about costs and increasing taxes, and this is something where there's just not enough grants and foundational money out there for us all to try to wrangle in the community to solve these problems. And I think the thing that Kathy really identified that really needs to happen is engaging the employer community in these issues. As my time as a WIB coordinator, one of the things I really learned is social service providers and employers, businesses really speak two different languages, and sometimes it's difficult for them to sit around the same table and communicate because their languages are so different. And I think finding a way to get more of the big employers from the community in the room and talk to them about these issues. The kind of issues we talk about aren't the things that they necessarily spend a lot of time learning about in business school, which is a part of why their language is so different from ours. And they just see an employee who doesn't show up for work on time or misses days and becomes problematic. They're not trained in all the issues behind that and the nuances that we see and understand. Getting them to understand those things and find creative ways to work around them. So a lot of it is really working with them as a community to come up with creative solutions. If you've got like 5 employers in an industrial park or located close together, talk about the transportation issues. I know you've got one employer in this community that's shipping van loads of workers up from Chittenden County every day. How do you work with employers that are in this industrial park or closely, proximally located closely together? Can you work to align your shift schedule a little more so we can have vans coming in from Richford or coming down from Allberg and only running a couple times a day to give you all the employees that you need who otherwise can't get into work together? Can you get 4 or 5 employers together to offer a high quality childcare as a benefit to the employees working for them? And then you can get those single parents who otherwise are unable to work there. So I think my parting advice for what it's worth is really find a way to reach out to these employers, engage them in the work that we're doing, and find ways to work with them together in a way that's going to benefit them and get them the employees that they need and get that return on investment and make them realize that just how beneficial it is to them to become a part of working on these solutions.
Wow. Mic drop.
Okay, well, I want to thank you, Eric. Thanks for everything you've done over 7 years. I want to thank everyone for being here this morning, especially the legislators. I thought it was a good conversation. There's a lot to be done. There's a lot of difficult decisions that need to be made. Once again, thanks for being here. Thanks for engaging. we'll see all of you next year. Hard to believe we're going to turn the page on another year. But I want to wish all of you and your families a happy and a healthy and a safe holiday season. And we'll see you here in this room and via Zoom. I think it's the 3rd of January. So thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.